Howdy folks, Rudros here for part 2 of the Opus 22 set review, this time covering Earth, Lightning, and Water. If you haven't checked out part 1, check it out in the description below, or maybe I'll put a little link up here as well. And this time I am joined by Mr. Ghoul02, Daniel himself. Daniel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Up early in the morning for this because it's a busy day of card games ahead for me. So,
well, best of luck to you. If you want all the info on why Jared isn't here, check out part 1. We kind of go over that there, as well as how we evaluate these cards. So we're just going to jump right into it with a card that I am quite excited about myself. This is Vossler. EX burst, search a king on entry, and then continued value as he attacks. Any forward becomes cheaper, can't become 0. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for cards like this because I'm a guy who likes to see his backups, and sometimes you just don't see your backups. Even after a mulligan, you have no backups. So I like cards like this where, you know what? You could put this out turn 1 and then go get that backup. There's, can't pull one off the top of my head, but there's other cards like that. There's some like an avalanche. There's some sets where you can put out a forward that goes searches out the thing you're looking for. So I'm always a fan of cards like that. He has instant value. He has a burst. He has continued value. Granted, I'm not 100% sure where he goes. I'm not 100% sure what kings you're looking for, but surely with all those lines of text, this has to be good, right? And yet there's some little nagging thing in the back of my head that's like, is he that good? But again, I wonder if that's more just I don't know where to put him because he reads really well. How do you see Vossler?
It's a weird one to evaluate because, I mean, you're right. There's nothing on the card that's necessarily bad. Searching for a king is great. I can think of 3 really good targets off the top of my head. Even in just a mono earth shell, you can get Kolka. 2 different Kolkas are relevant, really good. You can get the either Regis or the Epitaph. And actually, I think Leo looks really nice this set, thanks to just being able to toolbox into any LB. So it's a EX burst forward with continued value that gets one of 3 different backups or a relevant forward name. Mm-hmm. All of that's really nice, and your opponent does probably have to remove this card from the field in the same way that like they do with Durando. I think the only question really is just like, what's making room for this? Like a mono earth shell, maybe? It's an interesting one for sure. Has to be seen, I think.
Yeah, I think he would be stronger earlier too. Like the idea of pulling him down on turn 12 when the board's established doesn't seem nearly as threatening. But will this be threatening? So next we have X-Death. This is a nice EX burst backup. These effects, I'm always not sure what to think of them because they're specifically on backups. Again, generally, I want to get my backups down as soon as possible so I can start getting CP value off of them, whereas this one ideally wants to come out at specific timing. The shell I see it most useful in is Mono Earth because Mono Earth tends to be very slow, so more likely than not, you will have something attacking you. So the idea that you can not only develop a backup, and then not only do you take it out, you remove it from the game entirely, which is a lot better than just going to the break zone. Sounds good. Again, is Mono Earth really a thing? Probably not. Outside of Mono Earth, he's not going to do Earth Lightning because there's better X-Deaths to use, so yeah, I don't really know where he would go beyond that. What do you think?
The name is putrid. Yeah. We'll just get that out of the way. Even in Mono Earth, Neo X-Death is probably one of the most important cards.
Oh yeah, he clashes with that.
So, and the other thing, like, it's a weird design decision they made all the way back in Opus 1, but a lot of Earth's removal hits dull forwards, but Earth has no effects that dull forwards at all. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing that feeds into this. The one thing I will say about this, Earth is hurting for good EX bursts that aren't named Kuseth.
Yeah.
I think, like, you would see some EX burst heavy lists on even, like, the old Zeromus the Condemner.
Yeah.
This is, like, as good of an EX burst as you're going to get in Earth. But I think the name clash and everything else, like the awkward timing, the inability to feed into it outside of Ice or Lightning, and those decks having very solidified backup engines at this point, just means that he's a card without a home.
Yeah. Well, what about next? We have our Ruby Light Carbuncle, Final Fantasy VIII summon, if that ends up being relevant. And it's so it has a very powerful effect that, one, you can choose a character. So if for some reason they were targeting your backup to break it, you could use Carbuncle to prevent it. It can work on a monster, which is nice. And essentially just says, hey, block it, can't be chosen, can't be broken. Granted, we have Titan that does that for 2 cheaper. So I think this is one of those cards that you really do want to get the card draw. Okay, but most likely if I'm using it on my opponent's turns, am I leaving 3 backups up so I can do that? I don't know. Like, again, I feel so strange about these Earth cards because I don't think it reads bad, but some people complain that 3 CP for Mist Dragon feels bad to cast at times, and I adore Mist Dragon. Like, Are you really going to want to cast 3 CP for this? Like, even Titan doesn't see that much play, but he's cheaper, so I don't know. I don't know what to feel about this one. Like, Earth always gets these summons that have so much text on them, and yet somehow always feel like, eh.
So there are use cases for this. I think it loses out to Titan for the most part. I think if you need a card that says my forward doesn't die, I think Titan being 2 CP versus 3 just makes all the difference. But I think not being able to be chosen is actually really important as well, because you don't always have a forward that's about to break. You know, if we just had a deck last set that was wind, water, you know, bouncing, and that all is targeting, right? So being able to just kind of say, this character cannot leave the field this turn is really powerful. I just, like, the natural shell for this to be something like Rydia, but I think Rydia is going to be really hurting next set. And this isn't, unlike Titan, which Rydia can cast by herself. You got to find a friend for Rydia to cast this card. So I think in general, the cheaper options that do what this does are going to end up beating it out. But I don't think it's a card that doesn't have potential.
Yeah. Well, speaking of potential, next we have Qatar Bashtar, a card that really has a lot of potential on that. So first of all, I'm actually going to talk about the action ability, because I just thought about this reading it. Not that anyone's played Ran Pair in a Half Moon, but this is like the premier Ran Pair card, is just at will on your opponent's turn, you can pop the Ran Pair. Beyond that, I don't know how useful that is. And his entry, I was just like, okay, so what are the targets for this? At first I thought of like a Viking, but it doesn't trigger the entry effect, so I think Steve D pointed out in his video, Sophie was actually quite a good target for it. And I did think of the twins, but I don't know, like Fire, I don't know. Porum seems more likely. The other thing is, too, he kind of has the quote-unquote cardinal sin of he fails to both Amaterasu and Miss Dragon, so there's multiple different cards that can deal with him. Like, it's a cool idea, and if there is some premier target, Sophie's the one that does come to mind. Maybe he'll be good, but, I mean, he's a hero, so they clearly think he's got a lot of power. And again, I do think he has potential, but sometimes all the potential in the world doesn't carry you across the finish line. So I would love to be surprised by this card, but I don't expect this to see play.
I kind of was in the same boat for a while. I was like, well, what's really playing this? You know, I immediately went to Viking as well. You know, it's a way. I think that, like, White Mage plus this could theoretically revive the Vikings, and then all of a sudden there's a reason to be Earth while playing Vikings. But you're right, you don't get the entry effect. So you're looking at other things. I think a card like Suzuhiza could be really interesting with this. Just continuously flickering Suzuhiza to and from the field. I think the ability to put a backup in the break zone is deceptively good. You could cash out backups for, say, a Guido, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, card we'll talk about later. Because it does go to the break zone, it doesn't RFG it. That also could be a way of buffing Sophie into being a 10k power forward, which is a card he obviously very much likes. I think that, like, a mono Earth Shell that wants to play Sophie actually could want this, because you only have 3 copies of Ursula. This gives you another 3 copies of Ursula. Suzuhi's, like I said, is completely rational. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think that these effects, because reanimator effects are so rare in Final Fantasy, I think the ones that we do have, we need to pay a little bit more attention to, just because I don't think any of them have ever been, like, bad. I will not sleep on these cards after I said I thought Alize was not better than the Opus 17 counterpart. So
fair enough. Next we have Gabranth, and while I like the idea of this card, and maybe someone else can make it work, I just know I'm not going to get to line this up. So there's kind of an unspoken rule that a 4-cost backup that gets you a card back in hand, so that way you get the soft discount, it's a soft 2, right? You're paying the extra 4, but you get something back. So the idea that you only pay 2 and you get something back, it essentially pays for itself, is really strong. But not only do you have to be on more damage than your opponent, which may be very likely in Mono Earth, it also has to specifically be a backup. And sometimes, if I struggle to see the backups early, then I'm not even going to have a try. I mean, how many games has anyone played of Robel Akbel where I actually don't have any backups to pull back with him? So it's a cool idea. It's clearly very strong if the conditions line up, but this ain't for me because I'm going to struggle to get those conditions to line up.
there's cool stuff here. I like the card. I like how unintentionally it kind of pairs really well with Bosch. You could go Bosch, like backup, Bosch, give you the damage to go ahead, like fall behind your opponent.
Yeah.
Search Gabranth, play Gabranth for free, get backup from your break zone, play another backup. Like, that's a really cool combo. And any Earth 12 character, I think, gets a second look just because Fran exists.
Yeah, that's true.
Fran's a very aggressive deck. It might be hard to pull the second effect off on the Gabranthe, but there's also just a decent chance it is just okay and live, and you have a Earth backup that's category 12. So I don't hate the card. It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, Bosch was the card I was thinking of earlier. Sometimes I would play that like turn 1 in Avalanche if I didn't see a backup because he could go fetch one out. So good job. You retroactively answered that question. Well done. Time for my second favorite art of this set. This is Guido. I absolutely adore this art. I had no idea that Bartz was even in this picture until we saw the full art version, because you can barely see him in the original version. His head, his body's covered up by all the text. I was like, oh, Bartz is there. Like, he looks so majestic. I just love this. I like turtles as animals anyway. But yeah, and as far as, okay, so he's another one of these can attack, can block cards, which for the most part haven't really seen a whole lot of play. I think this one has a ton of potential. Clearly, you want to get those 3 counters on turn 1. I don't think it's way too slow to pay 2 for this to then have to make him wait through 3 whole turns before he can finally do something. But if you can main phase 2, put him down and immediately get 3 counters, and then at his worst, he's going to draw you 2 cards, and you can do it on your opponent's turn, which is really nice. You can kind of like dodge hand size limits doing that. I don't know how prominent fight effects like Hecaton Kyre are in the game right now, but he's clearly a great target for that since he does have 10k power. So I love the art. I really like the idea of the card. A lot of folks mention monks. That seems to be a very easy go-to since you can very easily sacrifice backups. I'm hoping there's something a little more creative out there because I just don't think monks have the sauce, but we'll see. So love the art. I do like the card. I hope someone can find a way to make it look really strong.
I really like the card. I mentioned earlier, like the Kadar Bashtar, like can sack a backup, and you could basically say like get a forward over the line for power to like you can kind of fizzle combat if you attack, and all your forwards are theoretically a lot bigger than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have Guido on the field, you can recoup the value from sacrificing that backup. It basically turns like the Kadar Bashtar trigger into sacrifice a backup, draw 2 cards, and your forward gains 2,000 power, which. I talked earlier about how I really like the Meath, which is kind of does a similar thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like get a backup out of the game, draw 2 cards instead. There are other like really neat things. Earth monster decks often liked running Hippocampus to cleave the board. You build a large character count, and in those decks you could run something like a Go-Go, and Go-Go copying this ability is really, really cool.
Yeah.
If you want to like be really risky, there is a wind character that when it deals damage, it doubles the counters on a character.
Oh yeah.
Non-Amigo. I don't think Non-Amigo will see play with this, but it is potentially kind of funny that you can get 3 counters on Guido, get a Non-Amigo down, get 3 counters on Guido, attack with a Non-Amigo, get 6 counters on Guido, go to your opponent's turn and draw 4, because there's no once per turn on that second effect. So, I'm always higher on these attacker block characters than most people are.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it dies to lightning very easily, but like, no fire deck wants to kill a 2 CP 10k.
Right.
So we'll see.
We will see. Let's see about this next legend. This is Gilgamesh. Some nice looking art. I don't know. It doesn't speak to me quite as much as Guido for whatever reason. But so again, this is a lot of, I feel like this is the theme of Earth this set. It's very potential, the card. I do like him way better as a 9k that can't die to a Limit Break Cloud or an Ixion. So I do think that is pretty important versus just a 7k, which then does die to Amaterasu. And clearly the potential of this card is great. My buddy was playing Mono Earth last set, and the problem with Ingus was that I didn't feel like there was, okay, who is the Earth forward you search for? They all felt so slow. Galuf, only good in the right situation. Cloud, only good in the right situation. Gilgamesh says, I remove any threat once per turn every time, and it can be any monster, any forward. That's really good. It is a bit pricey, though. You do have to keep paying for it, and because it's specifically to Earth, that's going to lead people towards Mono Earth. It's going to be 6 the very first time he comes in, and then 3 afterwards. Like, so the potential is clearly there. Is it going to be worth it to keep paying that amount? And again, we have to remember, nowadays, forwards are a lot cheaper. Like, yes, 3 is under the going rate for a break, but if their forward costs them 0 or 1, you're not really coming ahead on value there. So I like this card a lot. I hope this is the Earth boss that I've been looking for quite a long time. But that repeated payment also does kind of scare me a little bit. So how do you see Mr. Gilgamesh?
It's a very strange one. Like, I wish that it was like Earth 2, because then I could consider it more in like the retainer stuff that I run a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But those decks don't want to run 2 Earth backups most of the time. You want to get one. You're like, you don't want to have like multiples down. So you play Earth to play the Gilgamesh. You don't have the 2 Earth to pay into the action ability, or the auto ability, without having the Enkidu in the break zone, right?
Yeah.
And the ability is really, really nice. And something that does happen sometimes when you get to 5 backups is you just don't have a CP sync to actually do anything with. You just kind of pass with like, well, I've got 2 backups up that I'm not doing anything with. But that's 2 backups. That's not 3, which is like, you can't like cast Gilgamesh and then just tap out the rest of the backups for like, a break of forward that then can do it next turn for 3, for 2 more CP.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like every situation where this card is good, I can just Montleonis for something better, or you can just get the Galuf out. Like, Galuf is a good early game aggression, anti-aggression card, and this doesn't do that because you have to feed it so much while you're doing it. You're not setting up to counter the aggression once you get back into a stabilized game position. I don't know. I have to playtest this one a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Next, we have probably one of my biggest disappointments in the set, and this is Glaive. So I really liked the original Opus 8 Warrior of Darkness cards. I played them with Scions. That was kind of my first pet deck, so they always have a soft spot in my heart. I even went out of my way to play Final Fantasy Dimensions because I was so interested in them, which was a really good game. And for some reason, every Glaive card is like is give power and brave, give power and brave. And I don't know why, like, having played the game, I don't think that really even fits his personality very much. This one I would like so much better if on entry it recurred a card, the fact that it has to wait to die to do it. And I get it. Like, it's a 9k with Brave. It's making your knock to 10,000 with Brave. Like, I see the potential there. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was always hoping for more than Glaive, but it just feels like, again, like, why does he always do the same thing again? Come on, give him a different effect. So he's fine, I guess. I don't know how good Warriors of Darkness are going to be, period. Obviously, Noct is going to be Noct and Alba, I think, are the 2 standouts. So I'll have to really see how they do. So, yeah, I mean, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. I don't know. Maybe it's on me. Maybe I was expecting or hoping for something that just wasn't going to happen. So, what do you think of Glaive?
So it's a rough cast. I'll put it that way. 5 CP for a forward that does nothing on entry sucks. But we're never casting this.
True.
Which helps a lot. You can forgive a lot of sins when a card is free. And I actually think there's a decent argument that recurring a character, particularly Noct in this situation, after something like a Shinryu, because you're going to kind of naturally go wide in these decks, I feel like. If you get Shinryu wiped and you have nothing left, getting back the card can be really potent at that point.
Yeah.
And I think Brave is actually really relevant for Warriors of Darkness in particular because of Diana, which I think is actually the best one.
That's true. That's fair.
So, when I first looked at this, I was like, well, I can just run the old one, get a search for, I think it's Soul or Diana.
Yeah.
And it's 2,000 power, no Brave. I can just do that instead. Which maybe that's still what you do, but I think there's a case for this one still. So, I'm going to run it. We'll take a look at it later on, and it's an interesting one to revisit when the set finishes, I think.
Agreed. I like your point with Diana. That does make thematic sense because he likes her in the game. Next, we have Sandworm. While I am not a fan of most of these monsters, I don't quite think they're the Kadaj that Daniel says, but I have to admit I do kind of like this one. Yes, he is expensive, but he's also at 9k power. He's a legitimate threat to attack, and then they really don't want to block him because if he dies, he gets to then break something else. And I like that he can force him to block too. Steve mentioned this in his video, so it's worth pointing out. Be careful. It does just say choose off forward, so if they don't have a forward, you'll actually have to break one of your own should he die for some reason. I still don't think this will see much play, and 5 is expensive to essentially do nothing the very turn it comes in, but of these monsters, I like this one the most.
I think a lot of people have this as the worst of the cycle.
Really?
I don't know on this. So the one thing that I think it's a little annoying is this can't threaten a block.
Yeah.
which I think would make it really, really nice, because then your opponent now has this 9k they have to get off the field. And outside of water, you're going to eat something back with it. And 5
Mhm.
CP for a break isn't on rate, but you're not sad about that, right? And then on damage 3, it kind of becomes like this card that just eats a forward every turn. And if they have a 9k, it eats 2 forwards if you want to sacrifice it, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. That said, like, the Opus 14 Cloud always has had this effect, and that card's
Mhm.
never been amazing. Like, if you want to run this, you can run Opus 14 Cloud, which basically says, I'm going to attack and kill something every time I attack.
Yeah.
So, I just... But then at the same time, like, Ramza was really obnoxious last set as a hasty 2CP4 that your opponent did not want to block because it broke something, right?
Mhm.
As long as you had the Crystal and Entry. So I think it's better than people give it credit for. I think in, like, commons, it's crazy. But I don't know where in constructed. And also, Earth is really hurting for good monsters because it wants to play mono Earth monsters because of Mira. But there's only so many good monsters you can play.
Yeah.
They're on stuff like Behemoth and Gigas, FFCC, which are cards that no other element would consider.
Yeah.
So, maybe.
Next we have G Assassin. He's kind of just pack fodder chaff. I don't have anything to say about him.
He's not horrible. You're going to run Miners and Leatherworkers in your mono Earth deck, probably. So, a 3CP break of forward, that's well above rate, not difficult to fill the conditions. The biggest thing is, again, Earth can't dull forwards. Why are we having to target a dull forward? It's a really weird nombo to me.
Doesn't make much sense, even though they've done it forever. Next, we have Sieghard, whose Opus 10 version was probably my favorite Sworn 6 of the Palladia, just because I really like the way that card worked. This one is clearly the ceiling on it is very high. However, he essentially says you must have 5 backups. Granted, you could technically do it off of 4, but then you're overpaying from hand. And it's kind of weird. They want Earth to clearly go into this like big backup thing, but they don't have a great searching chain. Like, I guess Claris is kind of their only one. Maybe that's what they want you to do is, Vossler into Claris. And then the effect is clearly good. It's not limited to Earth forwards. You could pull back Neo X Death. You can pull back Mont Leonis to then pull back this other thing. You can pull back Griever if you're in Ice Earth. So the potential of targets, however, similar to Bashtar earlier, he also suffers to both Amaterasu and Mist Dragon. Granted, if you have a crystal, you can keep him alive out of Amaterasu range, so I like the concept of this, but it just reads slow. And I don't know, if you can set up to 5 backups in Earth, maybe you're already in a controlling position. I have no idea. I would love to be wrong about Sieghard, but he doesn't read very well to me.
I mean, so the crystal thing is, it's fine. You'd rather have that text than not have it, but you're not happy if this gets Amaterasu, even if it lives.
Mm-hmm.
You just paid 3 CP plus 4 CP. You paid for Shantoto and got a 7k vanilla out of
Exactly. And lost a crystal.
it. I think in Mono Earth, there's very few reasons to run this over Mont Leonis. Because Mont gets cheaper, and you don't have to line up this awkward, I'm going to pay with only backups for it and all this other stuff. I think Mont just feels a lot better. So you have to find this, Earth X deck that ramps to 5 backups and is able to do the backups, and then also doesn't want to use its backup for something else. It wants to do it to revive one specific forward, which kind of rules out, the immediate thought is oh, you go Earth Wind, you tap the 4 backups, so you Azura, your backups back up, and then you tap the 4 to do it. If you're playing Earth Wind and you have 4 backups, you can just kill them.
Yeah.
Into the sun. You don't need to go through the steps on Sieghard. So I just, nothing is bad on the card. I just don't see a home for it. I don't see a reason to play it over other options.
I guess you'd say he's a little too Sieghard to pull off. All right. With that terrible joke out of the way, we'll move on to Summoner. Again, for these backups, I actually think this one's kind of cute. I kind of like the idea that it doesn't say restricted to your turn, so I like the idea of a surprise Mist Dragon. Actually, I'll pull Mist Dragon from my break zone and then, dump your break zone or whatever. Other than that, nothing else that really stands out to me, but I actually think this is one of the better ones considering this set we have, so yeah, I like him.
Yeah, this card's solid. 2 CP, get back a summon. If you have the extra backups for it, or if you really want that Mist Dragon back, it's kind of like a Kryl, but you choose whether you want to pay for it to get the summon back or not. And then, you're right, the action ability is totally acceptable. Probably Mist Dragon's your your target. Nice thing is it doesn't RFG it afterwards, so it just goes right back into the break zone. If you want to recur it again later, you can do that. Good card.
Good card. What about our next Earth Legend? This is Noct. Woo! Mr. Nines. He's dressed to the nines because he's got both a 9 cost and 9,000 power. So if Warriors of Darkness are going to be a thing, clearly this is the card that brings them all together. I do like this character quite a bit. He did get a legend back in Opus 8 as well. And yeah, the potential is clearly there. It just says play any job Warrior of Darkness, so there is a backup Diana. So in theory, he can play a backup. He can also go fetch it out. So I think this one's just going to come down to a cost evaluation, because if he lives and you pay the 9, he gets his 3, and he spends multiple turns just jamming him out. I mean, that's just insane, right? That is insanely powerful value, and clearly Alba and Diana work really well with coming in for free. I guess that was my other issue with Glaive. Alba and Diana get a trigger when they come in off Noct, and Glaive just does nothing. So I think that's another reason he felt weak. Granted, 9 is a lot. And it's worth it to Amaterasu something like this. Yeah, even if he lives, okay, that you just spent 9 to do nothing. So that being said, if he doesn't die, he can still continue to play the card. So like this card reads very, very strong. It's also not limited which Warriors of Darkness you can get as long as they have different names. He can get a copy of himself to get his special online. I still think that special is a little pricey. Like not only is it 4, you have to have an Earth and a Lightning, which is a little awkward. So that part I kind of don't like. Still, I'm hopeful for the card. I've always liked Warriors of Darkness. It sounds so good. I hope it's competitive.
Yeah, this is a very strange one to evaluate. A long time ago, we had a card back in Opus 12 called Sarah FFL that searched 2 Warriors of Light. And the rational logic at the time was, this is cool, but I don't want 2. If this was 4 and got 1, I'd like it more. And then in Opus 17, we got Edgar. And I remember a lot of the discourse on Edgar is, he's a 5 CP 7k that gets to back 2, but if that trigger gets missed, you are really hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have an Edgar that's 3 CP and gets back 1, or 5 CP and gets back 2 now after having used it for 3 sets? Or how many sets now? And like... So now we have a card that's like, all right, 3.
All chips into the table.
So if this guy gets Amaterasu'd or Levitarasu'd or Fina'd or Mog 6'd, you lose.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other ways there are to put that. But if it doesn't, it's a 3 CP forward that plays a 3 CP forward immediately that also can draw a card. And it searches itself. So if they kill this, you can do the goofy, I'll do it again.
Yeah. I'll do it again.
The targets are all decently powerful. I'd hoped for a Final Fantasy XIV Warrior of Darkness this set. That would have been kind of fun. Maybe in the future if they want to support this a little bit more, but no, it's very powerful. It's really interesting. We'll talk about some of the other ones when they get there, but all the targets are actually decent, I think, with maybe Glaive being the worst, but I think Glaive is the best second play if Noct lives a turn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I like it. I think it's really cool. It's really interesting, and I'm excited to brew with it.
Same. Next, we have Prish, who just can't seem to really get bad cards. This one is way better than I first read it. It's a monk, and it's a 2 CP monk, so it actually can be revived off of Ursula, and she didn't have a lot of great targets. Then, anytime she deals damage, you get any character back, so it kind of reminds me of like a baby Durando, except technically cheaper, and while it doesn't get back as many cards, it's also not specified into forward backup. It can just, hey, anything in there, monsters, I'll pull it back. And then if you target it with anything, it buffs itself. So yeah, kind of fire staples like Brynhilde or anything that's shooting for 5, she actually survives. The only issue is the name, because the other Prish monk, despite how sour everyone was on when that came out because of the artwork and everything else, it was a good card. Like, it legitimately had a lot of potential. So maybe you just run both. Maybe you're like, because that one does have a soft special where if you discard a card named Prish. So maybe you would put both of them in there. Again, I'm still just not sold on monks as an archetype in general. They're still riding the coattails of a card that came out, 10, 11 sets ago now. But I do think for that, this card is actually quite good.
Yeah, I I like it a lot, actually. You mentioned the mini Durando, but one thing that's nice about this compared to Durando is she's even costed.
True.
Durando being odd costed was kind of awkward because a lot of times in the matches where you need a Durando, you need him turn 1. You need to start pressuring your opponent, make them commit to plays they don't want to make early. You know, like if it's a ramping deck or a backup deck, or you're going to drown them in card advantage. And Prish does that way cheaper, way faster. Being a 2CP monk is also great because you can go Ursula Prish, you're threatening 2 points of damage, and I'm going to get the best character back in my break zone every single turn. You got to deal with this, but also now Ursula's a removal engine, you know, and very difficult to remove. And Prish herself is difficult to remove. There's some other funny stuff you can do. Any ability or summon that chooses her buffs her, so you can buff her with your own stuff.
Yeah.
So, say you have like a Hashmal, she gains extra 2,000 power. The really funny one is Rug Prish, which I think is actually like decent.
Oh yeah.
Rug gives her 9,000 power on attack.
That's pretty
which
funny.
is hilarious. And then she gets back a character when she does that. So like that's actually like not a bad. If there's a reason to play Earth with Rug, that's a reason to do it. There's just a lot of good stuff here.
Excellent. We'll see what you think of Balo. I don't know if that's even how you say this card's name, but we're still gonna say it. This is Balo. As a generic Earth backup, it's quite good. I love that it doesn't specify forward, backup, mods. It just says character. If you have an Earth character, you get it back. So unless you're like me and you draw your summons early, you're good. You're going to get something back. And the action ability is fine. You know, it might help you out in a pinch. As a knight, I was actually a lot more excited for this when I first thought about it. I was like, oh, a knight Earth backup. And then I remembered, well, we have knight Earth backups. Actually, we have Seaguard and Pelennor. So it's not like, oh, we couldn't search out a knight Earth backup before. So I don't know how much the knight part is relevant, even though I know they're trying to like push a little Earth Knights a set. But just as a generic Earth backup that just gets back any character, it's very good.
I mean, I think it's better than the old Earth Knights are for sure. I think the cost is awkward because the reason you want an Earth Knight, for instance, is the Duke Ultana.
Yeah.
Duke Ultana is an odd costed backup that now is getting an odd costed backup, which is a little bit strange. Like you have to have then 2 backups, and you ramp to 4 really nicely, which feels really good. But one thing I did kind of overlook a little bit with this is Karilla later on can play any type of knight. She can actually play backups if she hits them. So this this helps there a little bit. I don't know that Earth Water is where you want to be for Karilla, but like it's an option.
Yeah.
So, and then just even it's just a generic card. This effect is fine. 3 CP, get back a character. You know, Earth Thing is kind of recursion, but this is very undercosted for what it does. So, I like it.
Solid. But do you like Ramza? I certainly don't. I was very disappointed when I read this card. I saw the first line. I was like, oh, 2 cost AK. Okay. And then he's going to do this effect. Oh, no, he just gets even more cheaper. Huh. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a free body is never bad by any means, but there's a great Ramza in Fire that clearly was supposed to be like the Knight Ramza. I mean, I guess it gives you another Knight target in Earth, maybe if you're playing Earth Ice Knights, so it's just a free target off Velaswell. That's cool, but they all, I don't know, like, I just wish he did something. Like, it can be the most pedantic thing ever. Just do something. The fact that all he does is free, and it's conditional free, you have to at least get an attack, like, I don't know, yeah, I'm underwhelmed because of the fact he doesn't actually do anything.
He's a common.
Good answer.
I do like, actually, you mentioned the Laswell synergy. I didn't think of that until now. Laswell wants to have a knight attack every turn.
Yeah.
So you have a knight on the field because you have Laswell. You attacked with the knight now. So Ramza's free. You get a dull freeze on entry, which is kind of cool. This card is completely free, so you don't even have to run any Earth cards to do that.
True. Oh, that's a good point.
So if there's like a mono Ice Knights, you know, you could like run Charlotte, Laswell, and Phasalis, and now you can run Ramza. That's kind of neat.
Interesting. Good point.
I don't think it's worth playing still, but for a common, that's better than a lot of commons. So
fair enough. Speaking of commons, here we have Mr. Lich. I do actually quite like this art. I'm not always a huge fan of the Theater Rhythm art, but I don't know. He just looks kind of ghoulish. No pun intended, sir. And yeah, at his best,
I take offense to that.
Yeah, at his best, he's a 10K if you have all your backups. Again, I kind of wish he didn't specifically target a backup. It'd be nice if maybe he targeted backup or forward. Maybe they thought that'd be too strong, but other than that, you know, he's kind of just a body. So he's cute, but I can't imagine using this in Mono Earth. If I'm using Mono Earth, I'm probably trying to make the last Lich work.
He's another common. I think Ramza's just better, as it turns out. You don't have the condition of needing a backup in the break zone, and attacking, I think, is a pretty decently easy condition to make him cost 2, which is what Lich costs at all times, and Lich doesn't get better than Ramza until 5 backups, so.
Yeah. And the last Earth card is the Lilty. We talked about all those in the first set. So let's dig our way out of the ground, and we will move on to Lightning with Ultimisia. And this will actually be interesting because there's a lot of 8 love this set, and this is one of the first starts of it. So blanket protection against your entire break zone, which is very, very nice. And then, what an effect. When it enters the field, as long as you have 15 or more cards in your break zone, you get to just gain control of one of their forwards. That's pretty cool. Usually those gain control effects are like a little more gimmicky, or they require a certain circuit. Like 15 cards, that's not ridiculous. Granted, it means it does absolutely nothing in like an aggro matchup because you're not going to have enough cards there. But if you can get as the game goes on, very strong. And then the special's great too. Just 10k power reduction, doesn't have to dull, doesn't have to pay extra. You just use the special. And that's what a special should be. Specials are the hardest effects to get off in the game. They should be strong. Yeah, she's very good. I could potentially see her feeling underwhelming again if you're facing into a lot of aggro, and so you never get her effect online, because I don't think you want to just pay 5 to essentially just have break zone protection. A little anti-synergetic with X-Death, all these 8 cards, but I think that's okay. I think that's just different play styles. So I think when she's good, she's going to be good, and when you see her early, she's going to feel really bad.
Card's very good. I think the first effect really is... It's there to stop your opponent from misdragoning to fizzle the second effect.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of the way I read that. It's same thing as Lena. It's like, I'm going to do the thing, and I'm not losing to misdragon on it, so you better deal with me another way. The 8 package, I think in general is... Or the Lightning 8s specifically are incredible, and she's a great cornerstone for it. I think the question if you run 2 or 3 is interesting, just because she's not good early. The special's very good, but Lightning has a lot of recursion. It's kind of one of its like extra core identities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really need the special, you can probably get it, because you're also going to be self-milling a lot in this deck.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, Chaos starts feeling really, really busted at 5, and this isn't even your opponent gives you the worst thing they control. This is, I want your Warrior of Light, give it to me. So, really, really strong card.
Speaking of...
Also a Witch, which is cool.
Oh, that's true, yeah. That may matter. Yeah, Griever can play this, can't he?
Yeah.
That'd be... Oh, man, imagine that. Griever dies. All right, oh no, just take the thing that killed the Griever. Next, we have clearly the developer's favorite Warrior of Darkness, Alba, because she always gets good cards. I still really like her Opus 12 one that would just yeet your break zone. Yeah, this card's solid. Not only does it have very good art, it clearly works very well paired off of Noct. It gives the deck a little more aggression, because now you kind of get this extra element of haste. And the first effect is pretty wide open, that it's... Yes, it has to be 4 or less, but that's very common these days. You get to break it. Granted, you can't hardcast this, so it does have to come in off of Noct. Or everyone's favorite multi-element, Al Cid. As it doesn't specify Warrior of Darkness, it just says come in off an ability. So whether Al Cid plays it or, Seaguard, whatever way you get this onto the field.
Gigawall.
Yeah, Gigawall. Yeah, it's a 3 cost. So anything that does that, pretty cool. So I imagine this one will be pretty relevant. It's a great EX Burst. EX Burst, it just says, break a 4. Solid. So I think Alba is by far the strongest in the sense of just kind of how straightforward she is. And again, she has so many applications, whereas I think a few of the others are kind of locked in with the Noct. Again, you could just play her in an Al Cid deck, so she's very good.
Yeah, I like her. It is funny, Alba does tend to get great cards, and they also give her pretty good art, which is always fun. I also love like her in the background of the one Matoya card, where she's just like, yay! Like super happy. But no, all the text on the card is good.
Moving on to Ultimisia 2.0. Nope, you are not seeing double. This is actually Adia. I thought when we saw the full art for this, at first I thought it was Ice, because she's using her Ice limit break in the background. So, is this an Ice card? No, it's a Lightning card. My only real disappointment with this is that, and I think you said this too, it's a kind of a shame it's so similar to Selfie. Like, I don't know if we needed 2 cards that just generically searched an 8 forward. Not that there's anything like bad from a balance or a play standpoint. It just felt kind of repetitive. They're like, oh, okay, it's another one searches an 8 forward. The actionability is quite nice. Again, it feeds into this whole keep your break zone big, protect your break zone. feeds in potentially to the Fujin, to the Raijin, feeds into the Ultimisia, and then a 4K power reduction. Power reduction is so much stronger than damage because it lets you trick stuff in combat that, oh, you thought we were both going to trade as 8Ks? Actually, surprise, I'm going to live now. And then if you get it to 8K, now you're just sniping off targets. So it seems pretty strong. It gets a refund on entry. If you're playing Lightning 8 stuff, I would be shocked if this card feels underwhelming. And it's a witch, so card just seems all around very good.
Yeah, Griever dies, play this, get another Griever. There's also this whole Lightning 8 archetype is about self-milling yourself. So sending the top 2 cards of your deck into the break zone is a benefit, not a cost. 4K power reduction basically says all your stuff is unblockable. It's not difficult to get to 10 when everything you do mills 2. So I think this card's really good. I think the only reason... I thought about it a bit more. The reason she probably cost 5 and searches is they wanted her to cost 3, but they didn't want Squall to play her for lore reason.
Oh, yeah.
It's very funny, but that makes the card even better too, which is annoying. One of the best cards in the set. Yeah, perpetual removal engines that feed your engine that also set up everything else. Great card.
What about this Odin we have? And this is also from Final Fantasy VIII. So again, I don't recall any of these caring about like 8 summons. So, but if something does, then obviously this adds to it. Yeah, I have to admit I was very disappointed when I saw this just because it's so similar to the last Odin we got, where it targets forwards or monsters. Those ones had to be 4 or less, or 3 or less. I think it was 4 or less?
4 or less.
It was 4 or less. And this one specifically has to be 3 or 4. And that one could draw you a card as well. I think that one wanted to just see the backups, whereas again, this one wants you to use the CP of the backups.
That one wanted you to have 5 lightning characters.
Characters, that's what it was. Okay. So, yeah, it was kind of hard for me to even, like, evaluate this because it just seemed like a really weird discounted version of the last one. And I don't mean discount like it's cheaper. I mean, like, oh, it's like a bad version of it. The other one just seems more generically useful because 4 or less strikes me because there's a lot of 2 costs I want to hit, especially with lightning cards. I don't know. Especially with stuff like Ixion. Like, I don't like this compared to the old Odin. Do you feel differently?
I don't. There is the one use case for this is if you're in Lightning X, where X is not equal to Lightning.
Yeah.
You might not get the 5 characters for the other Odin. That said, monsters are 3 or 4. There's literally 1 that matters.
Yeah, Skeleton.
I mean, I'd rather have that text than not have it. But it's very strange that it specifically hits those and not just like any monster. I don't think this sees play very much. I mean, it is kind of nice. Like if you're in Lightning, you can run Ixion, which gets the small things, and you can get this, which gets the like slightly bigger things. And if you do want Ixion, you can Chadley for it. So that's kind of cool. I just think that any situation where you want this, you'll play the old Odin, and just be happier with the fact that it's always going to work, rather than this where you have like a lot more conditions to make it work.
Yeah.
Even in non-mono Lightning decks.
Next we have an Amano Ghoul03. This card is interesting. The crystal effect is kind of... It's fine, but, you know, it's whatever. Again, I don't tend to evaluate crystal stuff super highly. It kind of gives me vibes of the old... what was his name? Exodus, the Judge Sal, where he would pick a number and then, like, break all of them. Of course, that was double-sided. This is just your opponent's board. Very strong against something like... Soirees or Warrior of Light stuff where they all have a similar cost and he's not choosing, he just blanket hits them. 8K maybe is a hair underwhelming depending on what you're going against. I don't know, like this is one of those cards I would love to have in a sideboard because I think it could really beat up on certain decks and I think it'll be really bad and dead against other decks. So cool idea. I guess it's not a terrible card to have in the game, but I think it's a bit too finicky to see consistent play. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe again, if the meta decks are all of a same number, maybe this guy's the secret sauce.
I think the card, like, the first time I read it, I was like, 8K doesn't feel like enough. You're only hitting 1 number. What if your opponent's on a deck with a lot of different numbers? But the more I thought about it, the magic number on this card is 2. If you have 2 forwards with it, it's done its job. And it's not that difficult for your opponent to have just 2 forwards. It goes very well against Gigawall. Gigawall, the only forward that's going to live this is going to be like a Prish if they're on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like a White Tiger Let's see Nimbus. So this kills everything without killing the Gigawall or targeting them.
True.
Which is kind of cool. The crystal stuff, it's a bonus. It does pair very well with like Lilith Melusine. Because you can go like Garuda, Lilith, Melusine. Melusine steals a forward. You remove their forward from the game for Lilith's cost. On their turn, you can Lilith away the Melusine. That gives you 2 crystals. You know, then again, Lilith can already break stuff at that point. But maybe you want to do damage as opposed to outright break, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like amazing text, but you'd rather have it than not. And maybe you're in like a ninja deck and you're generating crystals accidentally and you just happen to have 2 crystals. Why not fire and kill something else for free or round up a damage on something, right?
Yeah.
Being able to break most things 4 and under, like I said. And we know from like Exodus being a very good card and from Arcanist, like the ice card, locking out your opponent from playing a number and getting benefit off of it is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's better than it reads initially, which I was shocked at. I was not high on this on first read, but the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of come around on it.
Well said, well said. Card I am very high on is Cease. My darling, my dearest, where were you last set? When she missed the phone call. All the other cadets left the school. She woke up late in bed like, huh? Oh, crap. I forgot it's Opus 21.
She had to get the hair down just right.
Exactly, yeah. She was sitting there, okay, yeah, getting primed and prepped. First of all, this card, I think that is the only other Cease, the one from Opus 3. I don't think we've gotten one since then.
Yeah, there's not very many.
So the name is great because she needed a reprint. And then the effect is, if you are playing cadets, this basically reads pay 1, break any forward on the field. Like, it's very unlikely that you're not going to have enough cadets. Maybe if they have super, super high cost stuff, that seems very unlikely. So yeah, it's a great card. Oh, I have nothing bad to say about it other than you're an Opus late. Where were you last set?
Yeah, no, very, very strong. One thing that I really played a lot last set was, I think the Ace Hero from last set is a card that has long-term potential to be Firian or Man in Black good.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a backup for it, which is all you need. You need the 1 cadet backup. That 1 cadet backup needs you to find another cadet. And 3 Trey, 3 Ace is not enough for that. You needed just the 1 extra name to get to 8 characters. And I was running 9 back then, which was fine. You know, when he's good, he's really nice. But he's in a weird spot because he never deals with the problem. And he costs 3. It never felt amazing to cast him. This is just a great card if you need the extra cadet. 3 CP break a 2 is not bad. 1 CP break a 3 is really good. And that's all you need at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, very good card. A+.
Speaking of very good cards, let's go to Cypher, who I always like to say his name like the Pokemon Scyther, because I was playing the game around the time Pokemon was big back in the day. So good old Cypher here. Yeah, Cypher has always gotten cards in the past that they've always felt like chained. Like, he's got chains. There's always something kind of just restrictive about him, I felt. This one is the first one that I'm really into. So on entry, put top 2 into the break zone. You can get back any 8 forward. Clearly, what you want to hit is you flip, Raijin into the break zone. Raijin gets played. He then flips Fujin into the break zone. Fujin gets played. Then Cypher pulls out Ultimisia or Adia or whoever you want. And then he has haste from those 2, so he immediately attacks. Bada bing, bada boom. You got 10 in the break zone. Hey, you break it forward. So clearly, the potential of the card is great. I do like the art quite a bit. He looks very. Cypher was never a character I got really into FF8, but I do like the art on this card. Yeah, if you know me at all, normally I don't want to mill cards. I don't find that interesting. Mill my own cards. Ghoul's like, Axis is amazing. I'm like, I don't want to lose cards. This combo with the Fujin and the Raijin actually makes me want to mill cards because there's now a very clear benefit of like, wow, you can pop off and get insanely lucky. Granted, that probably won't happen to me personally much, but I know there's going to be players out there that like Cypher, Fujin, there's Fujin, there's Raijin, they just knock you out in one turn. Yeah, card's clearly good. The combo package is clearly very good. I don't really have any bad things to say about him. I think you'll see 8 quite a bit this set.
This is one of the best cards in the set, yeah. You mentioned it. Fun fact, I lost to that in pre-release. Not Cypher into Fujin Raijin, but Ignacio Mill Fujin Mill Raijin killed me. Which, I was like, what am I supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
No, if you have Fujin and Raijin, he attacks as an 11k haste first striker that breaks a forward on attack. Holy crap! And 10 cards in the break zone, you just milled 6. What do you need? What do you mean? Wow. Incredible. Broken. Brilliant. buy this thing out. Get 8 million copies of him. He's gonna be. I swear, if this is cheaper than Astidian by the end of the set, I'm gonna be mad and disappointed at all of you.
All right, you all have your assignment. Next, we have Selkie. We talked about those. Move past that to our final Warrior of Darkness. This is Diana. Has a, I don't know. The pose is kind of weird to me doing this. I'm like, stop in the name of love. So this one, I actually do like it better with Glaive when you had mentioned that, because without the Brave, it seemed a little underwhelming to me. Draw on entry is fine, but this one also has to be an ability, and that just doesn't feel as impactful as the Alba with an ability. You can still play this off Alcid if you want, and then you have to... I guess because, like, Alba... I don't know. I guess I just viewed the break more than the draw, even though some people would say the draw is even better. Yeah, this one's fine. I have to wonder, though, for whatever reason, because I'm not super high on this one compared to some of the others, I've wondered, is the old Diana better? She can get back a card on entry, which is a little more guaranteed, and you can just play... I guess that's a big thing. You can play her from hand if you absolutely have to. I don't like that if you hard cast this card, it doesn't do anything. That being said... I have seen cards like Dancers where if you can constantly dull stuff on your opponent's turn, that can be really potent, especially against an aggressive deck. If they're trying to kill you with a category 13 and you just dull their board out before they go, what are they going to do? So I'm hoping this one in practice will be a lot better than I'm kind of giving it credit for in my mind. But otherwise, I might try the old Diana. Maybe the backup Diana? I don't know. We'll see.
The backup's really potent, obviously. But... I like this card a lot, and I didn't think that much of her because I was like, well, she draws an entry, but so does the backup. That means that, like, Kolka gets Diana backup, now your color's fixed, right? And you play Nox can play backups for free, actually. He doesn't have to play forwards. But then I thought about it more. You don't necessarily want to attack with Nox, because if you attack with him or block with him, he is risking himself when he does that, right? Your opponent can combat trick him. You're dulling him when you do that a lot of the time. You know, oh, I'm going to, I got this, now I win the combat. You know, you open yourself up to a lot of threats. And your 9 CP investment, you do not want to leave the field because it's getting you value every turn.
Yeah.
Something that really I learned with Dancers is that the value of blocking without blocking, which is what Lilith effectively does. Lilith, I used to have my little 1 CP Andrea Rodea block the biggest thing on their field by just dulling it at the start of combat and saying that doesn't attack because Andrea blocked him, and the combat never happens. They don't get an on attack trigger. So like if your opponent goes Rufus Rug, I don't know if you can cast knocked off of that. Maybe you hit an EX burst, we'll say, right? If you go knocked into Diana, they can't attack with either of them anymore.
Yeah,
they don't get the Rufus trigger. They don't get the Rug trigger anymore. Which is better than blocking in that situation.
True.
Right? So there's a lot that ends up being really tricky and does for you really well, I think. And she doesn't have to dull herself to do it, so she can dull the Noct. She can dull the Alba. She can dull the Glaive. Glaive gives them all Brave, so they can attack and then do that later on. I think the card is just a slam dunk, 8 out of 10. Great card. If she had an EX burst for the draw, I think she would be a 10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Good job. You actually made a really good case for her there, so you kind of turned me onto her more, so well done. All right, next we have Drace, another lovely full art. Yeah, this is kind of just a generically good backup. In Lightning, I'm not 100% sure who you're searching for with this. Maybe just Raijin or Fujin. Maybe there's some other...
Lightning!
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, this is another searcher for Cat 13. Granted, it's not a Cat 13 card like Lumina is, where that builds into like Fang's combo, but yeah, Lightning's a good one. Yeah, it's just, regardless of who I can or can't think of, it's a generically good card. And if you use it in multi-elements, I do like it in Ice Lightning because you can go search out Lastwell, you can go search out Charlotte. So yeah, it's not going to have any lack of targets to search for. So just generically good searcher.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of Emina. There should be more text in this card, and there isn't, and I don't know why. It's good.
Yeah. Next, we have a Ninja. I mean, it's just kind of a standard unit. I don't have anything to say.
It's not the worst. If you wanted like to run a standard unit Ninja, in like Ninjas cost 1, you'll have 2 standard unit Ninja backups. It's a haste 8k that gives Edge a counter for 1 CP.
Yeah.
It's not the worst, but I think you've got better things to be doing in that deck.
Next, we have Fujin, who we alluded to earlier. I don't really care for the art on this. I wish she almost looks very short. I almost wish she was up a little higher, and then maybe the background face was a little more centered. I don't know. Anyway, regardless, who cares about the art because you're using it for the combo? We kind of allude.
Real quick on art. If you want to ruin this card forever, this is a duo card. Like the art with this had Raijin in the background, so they had to crop it. Didn't do a great job on this one, unfortunately. If you look at the edge of her hair on the top right.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like the Atomos line. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's kind of funny. Oh, that is funny. As far as combat potential, I mean, clearly meant to be very good with Cypher. Yeah, obviously, if you don't have Cypher, it probably doesn't do as much on its own. It's quite a bit weaker, but clearly the package and the idea of hitting this off of an Axis or even off of itself or off of Raijin, off of Cypher, whoever, the free play to the field is very, very strong. Comes in active, so it's ready to go as well. So yeah, clearly meant with the Cypher combo, probably weak outside that, but you're not playing it outside that.
I think you are playing this outside that.
Really? Do tell.
I think I'm going to talk about this and Raijin at the same time because I think it's
they're basically the same card, so go ahead.
We saw Fujin a lot earlier, and I saw Fujin and I saw First Strike, and I said, oh my god, Raijin gives haste every single card he's on. Please, Hobby Japan, I am begging you, do not put the word haste on Raijin. And they put haste on Raijin. I think these are cards that they will come to regret at some point. Every single game that has a card that when it's set from the deck to the graveyard or break zone, those cards become broken.
Yeah.
Magic has an Archimeeba. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has Wolf, which is a card you could not normal summon. But if it was sent from the deck to the graveyard, it would summon itself. That card saw ungodly amounts of play. These could be 5k vanillas, and I would consider them. So some other places you might not have realized these are really good. Dragoons. These are Dragoons that when they are hit off of Alice, they play themselves to the field instead of going to your hand.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a good point.
One that I think is really funny. Magus Sisters, the old Amano EX 4 cost, sends a card from your deck to the break zone. You send one of these, they play themselves to the field. On EX Burst. EX Burst, play a forward from deck. Then that Magus Sisters, when it dies, if you have a second Magus Sisters, it can remove that Magus Sisters to play itself to the field. That plays another one. All of a sudden now you have these two haste First Strikers coming from out of the deck for free for nothing. Don Corneo, mill 15. Screw it. Just flip the top of your deck into the break zone. Did you hit any of these? Cool. Play them. Mill 2 more. Oh, you hit the other one. Cool. Play it. Haste First Strike 9Ks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wow. My invisible rating is going up even higher. I didn't even consider that. For whatever reason, I locked in that they had to come from their own ability. But yeah, you're right. There's so many ways that suddenly they can just kind of pop out of nowhere. Oof, that is scary. That's kind of scary.
I've wanted a Foolish Burial effect in the game for a long time. It's like a 2 CP backup that sends a forward from the deck to the break zone. Just like, say Lightning. Like Lightning, maybe they don't want to give a generic forward searcher to Lightning. But you could do that and say combo this with something to get the forward back. They can't print that anymore. These cards say you can no longer print an effect that just sends a forward to the break zone very easily. These are busted. These scare me. I think Raijin might... I'm not calling for bans. If I had to predict any card from the set to be banned in the next 5 sets, it will be Raijin.
Interesting. Yeah, you make a good point. Wow, Alice. I would have never even thought of that. That's crazy. All right, well said, good. Well, now that you've scared us all to death, let's calm down with this very docile monster, the Moth Slasher.
This is a docile.
Yeah. I mean, he technically replaces himself, if he dies. I mean, again, I just don't really care for any of these monsters. And these effects like this, and since he's the only Moth Slasher we have, again, I don't personally like them, even if they're good, because I have crap luck with them. And Ghoul can attest to this in our test. I will draw all of these out of the deck first before I ever even play one. So then I won't even be able to use the effect. But maybe if you're actually good at it, then you'd like that more. Again, I'm just not really high on any of these monsters. How do you see the Moth Slasher?
Can you do me a favor, Travis? Look in the corner above War Machine. What do you see? This is a pod cloud target that replaces itself.
That's true. Okay, all right, yeah. See,
Uh,
that's why it's nice to have Ghoul on, because he always flips and sells me on this stuff.
2CP 7K. It's above curve. It didn't need to be above curve.
I guess I thought it did. I mean, but outside of Cloud Pod, I don't know. I'm still not feeling that.
I will tell you right now, thanks to a certain card we'll talk to you later, you can play Cloud Pod at anything now.
That's fair.
If you can generate Earth CP and you can find a way to get this idiot onto the field, your opponent has one turn.
Yeah, I mean, but isn't that always Cloud Pod? Like, that's always been Cloud Pod. If it goes off, it goes off.
Yeah, but Cloud Pod feels a lot better when you're not losing a forward in the process.
Yeah, for
too.
sure. 100%.
Dole, play a 3-cost forward from the deck.
Yeah. No, it's clearly good with Cloud. Yeah, that's unequivocal.
And then, like, your opponent isn't going to want to block a 2CP 7K, and if they do, it just replaces itself. It's multi-playable. Even if you draw multiples, it's not that bad. You can just cast the second one.
Yeah.
You can mirror it away with the Lightning Mirror, and then it plays another copy of itself from deck. No, it's good. One of the best in the cycle, unequivocally.
Next, we have Mr. Yagrosh. This card's kind of weird. Like, it's clearly inferior to the water one because the water one just absorbs everything, so all your opponent character dull freezes. This one only protects the other backups, and it's more expensive. Granted, maybe the point was just like, hey, it's in lightning, so if you wanted to play Ice Lightning with the Jill Nabat, now you have like some kind of protection in there. Although you could have done that with Charlotte too, so yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not fair to compare it to the water, but the water one is so universal, it's soaking up character effects. Like, I don't know, does this one do anything that one doesn't do, and it's more expensive? What do you see?
I don't get this one. Because I'm trying to think, like, what situation is it better to be my stuff can't be chosen versus you have to choose this?
Yeah.
The only thing is, like, maybe the other one can't block Hecaton Shear.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it's not, because it costs 3 instead of 2, right? But they still can break a backup, and if you're breaking a backup with Heka, you feel pretty okay.
Yeah.
So, and the other one, like, had really funny applications into wind because they would be forced to activate it all the time. I don't know. I can't think of a situation where you would play this over the old water one. And I can't think of a situation that, like, lightning needs this effect to win the game for
Yeah.
It's like nice into ice specifically because then they can't dull freeze your other backups. But they'll just start hitting characters. They'll hit your forward. They'll hit the Yagrosh, and it's like, well, now you're not fizzling their dull freezes. You're just saying, well, my other backups aren't going to get dull frozen.
Right.
That's not as good. So I don't like this card.
Yeah.
Art is fantastic.
Yeah, good card, but yeah, he's a weird one. Raijin, we talked about him with Fujin. Here we have Rigdia. I actually like this one a lot. I think this is very good versatility that there's a reactive effect, what your opponent's doing, and a proactive effect for yourself. Lightning has had plenty of these 4 CP Lightning backups that get back a character. There's the old Sage way back in Opus 1. But again, this one is essentially those, except now it can also have an offensive effect if that's better for you. Lightning has no trouble breaking 2-drops, but still, yeah, I appreciate the versatility of this guy, and he's, I think, the good target for Jill Nabat if you're playing that card for any reason. So, Rigdia, you get a thumbs up from me.
Yeah. The only downside is Cid of Clan Gully is this card with an EX burst minus the break a 2-cost forward. Yeah. But usually you want to play one Cid of Clan Gully because you don't want to play multiples of it a lot of the time. This is just Cid of Clan Gully 2. Yeah, good card.
Yeah. What about... So we actually are at the point where we don't need more Dragoon backups. We do have enough to fill out the Alice numbers. Still, I guess it never hurts to have another one. The entry effect is a little... Like, again, you have to have a forward that can attack for it to matter. So that one's kind of eh. And then the break is... okay, it kind of sucks it has to target an active forward, but it's there if you need it. I don't know. Granted, the Dragoons, they didn't really have any offensive backups, so maybe that alone will make it worth a look that most of the backups, again, yeah, you could have the one, you could dull a forward or with Alice, or you get back a card from the break zone. Maybe having a Dragoon on the backup line that can threaten to kill something, maybe that'll actually be worth something. So yeah, he's fine. He's okay.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head with this one. Entry effect, don't really care. I guess like 3k power can be relevant if you want to like swing in with like Freya or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's a little vulnerable at 6. 9, it's a little harder to block. But I think the action ability is actually really potent, and you got to realize like Dragoons, once you hit the Alice and it sticks for a couple turns, a lot of times you end up with so much CP, you just don't have anything better to do.
Yeah.
And this does just like say, hey, that's a threat. I got to get it off the field, and you can't always Cherry Blossom. So yeah, I like the card a lot for that.
Excellent. Next, we will move on to my favorite art of the set, and I'm sure no one can possibly guess why. Unfortunately, I don't think the card itself is that good, but that's good for me as a full art collector because hopefully that means it'll be cheaper. It's a unique effect. Like, I do like that she focuses on these summons, and I think the idea is, okay, you can discard one, pop something for 5, you go to your attack phase, you potentially remove the one you just put in there and another one. Now you hit it for 7, you can take something out that's 12k. Maybe they have a 5 and 7k on the board and you go 5 to that one, 7 to that one, and you just split it all up. It's a cool idea. But if I'm going to play a 2-cost 5k that like is also, I feel like just Rydia's better because she at least has some protection. Like, Lulu can just die to so much. I don't know. And she's in Lightning. I would love to see someone like make this card work because I like that idea of I'm going to turn all these summons into this value. But again, like, wouldn't you just play Braska? Braska can just pitch a single summon to do 7. I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. I guess I feel like we have other cards that do this effect just more cleanly and better. Fantastic art, though.
I think every card that does this is good, though, right?
Also true. That's fair.
So, yes, Braska does more damage on the discard. I don't think anybody can argue that. She's not competing with Rydia. She's not doing the Rydia thing. Rydia is casting the summon.
Fair.
If you have an arc in your hand, Rydia is not having any fun with that arc in your hand. So a lot of those like Mono Lightning Chaos Arc or Earth Lightning Chaos Arcs would be on Cisne just to get those arcs out of your hand for some frickin' value.
Well, that's true.
This is just kind of Cisne that, you know, can have extra utility, right?
Yeah.
In a way. Like, Cisne becomes a 7k haste brave on damage 3, but you never cared about that effect. It really was just like, I can do 9k.
Does the remove, since you brought up that deck, does the removing the summons, though, does that kind of conflict with, like, Man in Black, these cards that want to keep reusing the summons?
So that's the rub. Is like, you probably need to be running, like, 15 lightning summons for Lulu to be good, but you can do that, right?
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of like kind of neat things that I've like kind of realized just from playing the pre-release with this card, where she was all-star, which is funny. I my pre-release kit for yesterday had 7 summons in it. I just threw all of them in the deck with Lulu.
Oh, nice.
So that first effect does not target the summons you remove from the break zone from the game, right?
True. Yeah.
So something you can actually do if you want to really threaten your opponent is you can go to combat. At which point they're kind of like, they can see just the one summon, right? You know, if you have one summon in your break zone, you have like a couple cards in hand. Say, I'm going to go to combat. Lulu's on the stack, holding priority, discard the summon. Now I do 5k to that, 7k to that, because there's no way to stop that. Like, they can't like bring Hilbert to the Lulu before combat. So if you have any summons like at all, you start to threaten that 7k ping before you ever go to combat. Right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Like, it kind of plays the same mind game that the Mono Fire Lunith did, where it's like, when you go to combat, your opponent now has to really question, like, am I able to deal with if this guy pops off now? Lulu has that effect, which is really nice. That's a really neat thing. Compared to a lot of other options like Cisne, the ability to do this on your opponent's turn, you know, sometimes you really need to pop that like monster right now or you're going to lose.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I will say, like, when I first read the card, I was like, well, you don't want to remove your summons. Why are you removing your summons from the game? You have Man in Black. You can cast those things later on. But if you're on 15 summons, there's probably going to be a couple extras. Man in Black can only remove, 1 per turn. 2 if you give him haste the turn he comes into play. And in those situations, those summons are just sitting there.
Yeah.
Lightning can't really get them back other than with Man in Black, so why not feed them into Lulu? 7k ping for free is great, as we learned from a little card called Stern Leonis.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's weird. It's going to compete with Braska. If you can make Fire CP, Braska's probably just better. But this does turn a resource that you're not using, potentially, into free damage.
Yeah.
And anytime you can do that, that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, Braska and Stern had obviously the free timing of doing it anywhere, whereas Lulu's big shot is during the attack phase. So I hope you're right, though, because I would love to see the card actually see some play.
Another interesting situation that could even come up. Say you have Lulu, you have a summon in hand, you have enough summon number of summons in break zone. She can kill a 12k the turn she comes into play if you just discard a summon and then do the ping.
Yeah, that's true.
Which kind of competes for headspace with Seymour. But Seymour saw a lot of play, and that card removes 6 cards from your break zone from the game.
Yeah.
For his action ability. Granted, you would do that if like it won you the game. So there's a lot of room to play here, I guess is kind of the... I think this card will see a lot of play because of that.
To the Lulu Playground. But that's it for Lightning, folks. All right, let's cool off with some water. Here's Blue Mage. He's kind of your typical discard. Well, you have to discard a monster specifically. I mean, he's fine. The recursion effect is clearly very good, a monster 4 or less. So I think that potentially makes him strong. Thoughts?
Realm has a lot of, like, you can run a lot of monsters in Realm. And, like, sometimes just cycling those to draw another card can be really nice. You know, maybe you don't want, like, the Sahagin or Sahagin Chief, and digging towards more action can be good. Problem is, there's so many good standard unit water backups that this is competing with that I just don't think you're going to really play this over those.
Yeah. Next we have Agrius, which is a very cheap way to bounce cards, especially if you're playing Knights. But if I'm doing Knights and Water, I'm playing the old big Agrius, especially with the Garland, like you mentioned in Fire, like pumping her 7 to an additional 5. Just seems way stronger. I can't see why I'd pick this over one of the other ones.
I think you're meant to play this with Corilla.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Because then you can play any other 2 CP Knight you hit with her. The big problem is it's just like there are not 3-cost Knights outside of, I guess, exactly Bilo now.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, I'd rather have a 2 CP Agrius that does something than like a more potent ability than just like a 1 CP and then like maybe I hit a Laswell with her. But so I think if Knights are going to be a thing, this is probably not the Agrius you play. I would play the 2 CP Ice Agrius before I play this.
Agreed. Next we have, took them 22 sets, but finally Anima, the beautiful summon from Final Fantasy X. And what a cool effect to on-demand remove from game, and potentially you could refund it too. This just screams play water unit with me, not only because it's thematic, but it only costs 2, and it still counts that. You don't have to pay a full 3 for the card draw, so you pay 2 off your backups, draw a card, remove it from the game. Awesome. Only downside is, like our good friends Kate Sith the backup and Firewind Zidane, it does draw them a card, so maybe you're potentially helping them, but still, I'm glad to finally see the summon in the game. It's a cool idea. Water does have a lot of tight summon slots already, though, is the only other thing, so maybe you would prefer something like a Tomos because it just kills it and then you don't give them the card draw. Will that card draw keep this card from seeing play, Mr. Ghoul?
On first read, I thought this card was completely broken. I was like, removed from game? This is just Medine with no steps. That said, that your opponent draws a card. I had to like, kind of recontextualize that. If there's a 5 CP summon that said your opponent removes, you remove forward from the game, your opponent draws a card. Or 5 CP 4 that says you remove forward from the game, that's really expensive.
Yeah.
Especially like to give your opponent like the resources to deal with you. I would almost say giving your opponent the draw is worse than this being 5 CP remove forward from the game in that regard, as far as like your opponent being able to like kind of crack back at you for casting this, for having the audacity to remove their forward. Drawing off of the backups is obviously incredibly potent, especially with Yuna. That makes it the easiest of the cycle to do that with. There's a lot of other things that it leads to. Like I said, there's so many good water summons is kind of one of the issues with that. Again, it's so good for the removal. Making your opponent draw can be good if Mill ever comes back.
Yeah.
It puts your opponent ahead on deck size. And something that's kind of funny, if Ice Earth ever found a way to implement this card into their lines, it could be really potent. Because one thing that you do, what's the counterplay to discard? No cards in hand, no cards in hand, no cards in hand. If you make them discard and then just rip it from their hand, kind of mean.
Yeah.
Like you would even see like Ice Earth occasionally splash Une for that reason, where it's like if they junked their hand, you could cast Une, bounce 2 cards, and then discard them with Weiss and Unalesca, or with Rufus and Unalesca, and like all of a sudden now those cards are just being discarded. So you get all your discard triggers and everything else. So in a deck that makes your opponent wants your opponent to draw, or with Yuna, it's really, really powerful. Just be ready for your opponent to immediately snap back when you cast this on them, because that extra card really matters.
Yeah. Next, we have a card that Ghoul is no stranger to. This was his spoiler. And this, the whole pirate thing last set I thought fell really flat, and a big part of the reason because it had no removal. Like, it was just, okay, well, here, I've got some bodies, and then that's it. This actually gives it some removal, decent removal at that. An 8k shrink is nothing to sneeze at. So, similar to Cease, I'm going to be like, why didn't this card come out last set with all the other pirates? Obviously, it's your spoilers, so I'll let you talk more about it, but I really liked it when you first shared it, and I think for that pirate thing, I think it actually gives it now something that it was missing.
Yeah. Are Pirates of Vikings going to be a good deck? I don't think this fixes all that ails them. But there's a lot to like here. Layla, shrink your opponent's forwards by 1,000, and then also really makes that 8k round up quite a bit. Makes the 3CP Layla a lot better. It just seems decent in general. So I know you're like, well, why didn't this come out last set? I kind of like when they trickle out support, so you don't have a soiree situation where the deck comes out, is fully realized and complete, and then we never change it for 18 sets, and people to this day still play freaking Opus 16 soiree with, 10 new cards swapped out here and there. So that's cool. I don't mind trickle out support like this.
Next, we have a very discount version of Warrior Light compared to his last set's dominance. This is more what I'm used to. A special that only gives himself a bonus, and he works with standard units. I'm not going to pretend to know enough about standard units. I'm sure there's some good ones out there that you could get with this. It just says job, so I'm sure there's good backup ones he can get. Maybe he'd be worth it just for searching out a specific standard unit backup, but outside of that, I don't think any standard unit deck's ever going to be super competitive, so I think if he sees competitive play, it will be specifically he lets me search out this specific card, which is worth it.
First time I read this card, I thought it was really bad. I'm kind of coming around on this. Not even for a lot of different reasons. First of all, Water has the best standard unit backups in the game.
True.
Loporit,
Astrologian,
and Astrologian are completely ludicrous. One other thing that this does, and that 4CP's the 4 more standard units, I thought it only buffed standard unit forwards, because that's usually the Warrior of Light thing, is he cares about standard units and he makes standard units better.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 4 standard unit backups, he's a 2k anthem for all your forwards, other than himself. He buffs everybody. That's cool. The other thing, this is a name Warrior of Light with an EX burst.
True.
So if you go Arya in Mono Water, or sorry, not Arya, Sarah FFL, you can get Warrior of Light and Gigawall. And now you're thinning your deck of non-3 cost forwards. This is now special fodder for that one with an EX burst that gets you Loporit or Astrologian, which are cards you're playing anyway in a Mono Water or Gigawall list. And the special is ludicrous on Gigawall.
Yeah.
We know this. So this card is very, very good. Yeah.
Excellent. Next we have Clavat. We mentioned all those. We'll go past him. Corellia, man, I was excited for this card when I first saw it because I do really like Knights, but the more I've thought about it, the more my opinion has kind of started to go down. I don't understand why the protection doesn't extend to Corellia. With that, why? Why? Yeah, you have to hit it for 9. I don't know. That part I don't really get. And then, the Reveal 5, many people refer to it as the cursed mechanic, and I've certainly been on the cursed side of it very much before, and especially because this one, you have to see very specific Knights. Playing to the field is insanely strong. If you flip Lastwell and Charlotte, and you boom, boom, and Lastwell trigger twice, super duper strong, undeniably. But it can't play the 5 cost Agrius. It can't play the 7 cost Ramza. Yeah, you can play the new 4 cost Ramza, but then he doesn't do anything, and his whole thing is becoming free anyway. So I hope in practice it's better than it reads, because of course, as I'm thinking about it, all I can picture are all the scenarios where it goes wrong and it doesn't work. So I hope the opposite is true in practice, but I have to admit, it wasn't quite what I was hoping for.
The first time I read this, I thought it was Gigawall, in that play 2 Knights of cost 4 or less from be revealed, and I was like, so okay, clearly we want to hit Gawain, and they're okay, we can hit Laswell, and it's no, it's total cost 4. Because then, to get the most value, you need to hit 2 cost forwards, which only really matters in Ice.
Yeah.
And then you're missing out on like Garland and Gawain, and you're missing out on so many other like really, really nice cards. You can't really play Ramza at that point unless you go tricolor. And then you still have to hit both of them, which means that there's only 3 of them that cost. I guess you could run the 2-cost Agrius and go to 4 copies of 2-cost Ice Knights.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just kind of a stompy. You're just Layla Viking with more steps at that point,
Yeah.
or more randomness. I really want Knights to be good. I will play test this. This was the deck that got me into the game. I played Water Lightning Knights was the first deck I played.
Nice.
I'll have to give it a shot, but I don't have very high hopes. I will say, maybe someday. There very easily could be a card that fixes all of Knights' issues, and then she becomes really good.
Yeah.
And there's a card that they could give Job Knight to next set. I think officially it shouldn't be that, but it could be, and we know it's a legend, so
yeah.
Maybe this is a card to keep an eye on.
Yeah. You never know. Next we have Siren, some beautiful Amano art. I love this card as far as the design of it. I don't know how good it is, but first of all, I don't think it needed the damage 3. I think that could have just been one of its field effects. It's only a 7k, so any 8k shot would still kill it. Especially because, I understand what they were afraid of, that the cancel could be really strong, but the cancel isn't determined, right? Again, thematically, it's great. She's a Siren. Siren, when you summon her, she casts silence on your enemies, so I like the idea that she's just, silencing what they're doing. However, we have stuff in the game that guarantees cancels things. We have the Fiend. We have Fina from hand. We have Amaterasu. We have Levi Tarasu. We have these cards that say, no, this guarantees cancel. This could completely whiff. Granted, I guess you could try to design your deck around it, but I don't know what kind of deck that looks like. So I love the idea. It's really cool, but especially in water, again, we have a summon that cancels stuff for sure. Granted, this can cancel anything, summoner ability, so the power of it is clearly there. And I know I'm going to face some person who just goes, cancel, 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 and they'll just hit all of them. But I don't know. I would imagine the inconsistency will keep it from being truly that card. Love the idea, though.
Here's my question for you. Your opponent puts this on the field. This protects everything, not herself.
Yeah.
You talk, you can play the Fiend. Fiend only protects himself from being chosen. Granted, he turns off summons for your opponent. Imagine if you have this plus the Fiend on the field. Though they have to get through. I guess the Fiend would go off the first time he's chosen, no matter what.
Yeah.
He's still being chosen. It's not optional to cancel the effect that chooses him. But okay, say Tidus, for instance, right? This gives you another layer of insulation on your Tidus. There's a lot of good value for it. All of a sudden, if you have a Porum with this out, your opponent really needs to get the Porum off the field. But oh man, if I cast Brynhildr and they whiff it, what do I do?
Yeah.
You can't gamble into that. So now you're if I see this on the field, I'm scared to even try to use Noctis to fight, because if that Noctis is the only way I can clear this, I what do I do if it whiffs?
See, I think you would do it, though. If that's the only thing you have to clear it, then you're just going to do it because, okay, well, that's all I have. And then if it hits, it's yeah, okay, no big deal, I hit.
But if your opponent is not doing a thing to remove your forwards, if I see this and I say, well, I can either clear this thing that's going to cause me problems now, or I can try to develop and maybe find a board clear eventually. I probably have to do the board clear eventually thing. And if your opponent is doing something that they don't want to do because you have this forward on the field, that's a win for you.
I guess that's fair.
So I think this card is actually incredibly potent, because I don't think it matters how many cards you have in your deck. You're probably going to be on, 12 backups. You're in water. You're going to be running 3 blue worms and a Tonberry and all this other stuff. It's very easy for this to be you feeling lucky, pump. I'm going to flip a coin, and if it's tails, you do not get the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will say, if there was a card in the game that said, when you choose my forward, flip a coin, if tails, cancel that effect, my opponent will never target a thing I play for the rest of the game. Unless it's the only option that they can do, and if it cancels it, I win the game on the spot. So I think this card's really good.
Yeah.
Protecting Leviathan. Once Leviathan comes into play, you actually don't want Leviathan to die because you want the recurring
No,
value
that'd be
out of it.
huge. That would be huge.
So now you've got this big 9K they have to remove. Getting the Leviathan off the field is very difficult.
Yeah.
Once it's there. Well, now, okay, coin flip, frick, tails. Coin flip, frick, tails. Now I'm out of cards in hand because I had to spend 2 5-cost removal spells to get the stupid thing off the field.
Yeah.
You win. GG. Shake my hand.
If only I were that lucky. All I can see is the heads, yeah, it failed. Heads, yeah, it failed.
The thing is, you don't have to be lucky for this card to be good. You just need your opponent to be scared of it and to try to play around it in a way that's inefficient. And if they do that, you win.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a
you
good
have
analysis.
won the game because of it.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well said, Mr. Ghoul. Next, we have Severo. He is a black mage, if that matters, if you're playing him with the lightning ones. Other than that, I mean, yeah, you get a backup, but it's just a bounce. Bounce is always like the weakest form of removal. The crystal is nice. The action ability is a good effect, although, man, it's expensive. So, yeah, this is definitely not my kind of card.
The action ability is really expensive. If it was like 4, I could maybe see it, because then it's like you just tap your backups and do it on a dead turn.
Yeah.
If it has to cost 5, means that you have to pitch a card from hand to do it. Yeah, no, I wouldn't play this.
But would you play this card? This is Chime. Okay, so I love the idea of this card, and I want to see more design like this, because I like this idea that you are truly rewarded for going to a full 5 backups. It doesn't even say water backups, so you could technically play. I thought of mono water, but you could play this anywhere. And because it occurs in the end phase, they can't interact with it. They can't Amaterasu it. They can't whatever. And it's just for the rest of the game. Like, that's awesome. But it also means you're putting 5 into a backup that literally does nothing. So again, if you're against aggro, you'll never get to this. You're going to die way before that happens. So like, I love the idea of this card. I love the design of it. Will it see play? I guess it depends on if it's in a deck that can ramp out super, super quick and then keep those resources flowing. Yeah, I just don't know. Again, I love the idea, but my instinct is to say it's too slow because you just can't afford to pay 5 for something that doesn't do anything. But I would love to see this one succeed because I really love the concept and the idea of this.
That's my general instinct as well, is that it is too slow. Very powerful, right?
Yeah.
Getting the extra card off of a backup like this. The first turn it comes into play, say this is your 5th backup. You tap 3, you pitch 1, you play this. It's a 3 CV backup the first turn it comes in, it's a 1 CV backup the next turn. And you do get the value kind of immediately because you draw at the end of that turn. That said, I kind of wish it was like, during your draw phase, draw an additional card. That way, like, you didn't worry about the size limits as much.
And you could use it more proactively then.
So like that would be kind of nice, but granted, like it's not that different. When you play this the first turn it comes into play, you probably aren't going to have, I don't even know if it's possible to play this and then still have 5 cards in hand at the end of the turn when you pass.
Yeah.
So like, and then after that you just like have to like make use of the cards as you draw them. I think it's like a really interesting one for like control waterless, because like they need to get to 5 backups even against like a mono win deck. A lot of times they really want to get to 5 backups, and maybe the extra card every turn gives them an angle where they can go late game against like a mono wind, right? You run 1 copy of this. If you draw it into mono wind, you play it. If not, well, you probably have 12 good other backups anyway. You just don't play this. You ditch it to play your Sarah or something, right? Yeah. I want to try it. It looks really fun. It's a really cool concept. It's a really cool design, but I do wonder if it is just like, maybe it cost 4, it would be really interesting because then you just tap your backups out, play this or something, but very powerful, but just very slow. I
would have rather seen it be cheaper but restricted to mono water, that it has to be water.
I don't want this being restricted than being in mono water. There's a 2 CV backup that isn't like mono. I said, if you have 5 water backups, then they can play this with
not 2. I'm not saying make it 2. I'm just saying I would have rather seen it geared more towards that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like the FFCC thing matters because you can search it with
technically
Stalin. Like that helps. Maybe there's a wind water deck. Like wind water was already good last set with the stuff, and that deck kind of would like ramp backups and then just draw a crap load of cards and bounce all your opponent's stuff and then kill them. Maybe this plays into that. I don't think that room has room for another 5-cost card, but
next we have.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
It does make you think. That's good. Next, we have Paladin, kind of a discount version of the old Opus 3 Lena, which also just revived 2 costs. Granted, I think that might have been restricted to water.
It is just water, yeah.
I mean, again, you got to be playing standard units, so like if that's your deck plan, this card's good for that. Again, it has the Dies to Amaterasu and Mist Dragon Syndrome, but revival effects are always strong. So if your game plan is standard units, this card seems solid for that.
I don't think your game plan has to be standard units for it again. If you're in mono water, Loporrit, Astrologian, Alchemist, that's 9 standard unit backups that you all want to play.
Yeah.
So then it kind of becomes like, well, is this better than Lena? Probably not, but you could do funny things with this. You can revive Zidane, which everybody tells me is a broken card. You can revive Rydia, maybe like free cast Cucullin every turn. So it's interesting. Better than a lot of these cards had to be.
Speaking of better than cards, here is Piranha, which is an Opus 10 card. Probably, I think, one of the worst of these monsters. 2,000 on entry is just like nothing. That's barely going to kill anything. I do like it on damage 3 that it draws, but water also just has some of the best monsters. We have Tros, we have Tonberry, we have Blue Worm. Like, I just don't see why you would ever play this over one of those.
Yeah, the only thing that's mentionable about this, it's a water 1-cost monster, which means it's a realm target. I think you would just realm for an out-of-element 1-cost monster if you really need this.
Yeah. Next, we have Ferris. The effect is kind of like, okay. If you're sacrificing something that gets benefit from dying, like, I don't know, Opus 9 Porum, so you get a summon back, and then...
Does not work for that. You remove your unforward from the game.
Oh, never mind. It removes from the game. Okay. Well, if you have something that benefits from leaving the field, like an old Viking, then... that effect.
Yeah, the intended target for this is probably she's kicking a Viking into an opponent, basically, and then they have to like sacrifice something. I like the thematic lore of just Ferris like picking a random Viking or pirate and just kicking it in front of whatever's going on. It's the second card in a row that does that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I find it amusing.
If you're doing the pirate theme, though, you're probably doing the forward Ferris. She is a Warrior of Light. Granted, Warrior of Lights right now, the Fire Ferris is kind of the key target. So, but I don't know. I guess if you drop that one for whatever reason, she's a Warrior Light, so she, has all the Warrior of Light benefits. So the jobs are relevant. Other than that, I'm not really feeling her.
A lot of people don't like the Legend Ferris from last set. Just because it doesn't really do anything, right? It doesn't have an entry effect. You can redirect stuff so you can't choose her and makes your stuff big, but how much does that matter? And this is the only pirate backup in the game. So if you have this and then you play a Layla, you can now search Bikke and play Bikke for free. Or you can play Layla, search Vaughn. Vaughn now has 2 backups or 2 pirates on the field. He does the 8k shrink on entry now.
Yeah. Good point.
So, the job is actually, having a backup pirate, as funny as it is that this common competes for headspace with the legend from last set that's trying to do the same thing. But it's good for that. And then Warriors of Light, you now have Ferris, Lena, Arya, or not Arya, Sarah. I always want to say Arya instead of Sarah. That's 3 Warrior of Light backups in water. Refia is also in water.
True.
So it's very theoretically possible that you could play a mono water Warriors of Light deck now, or Water Wind. This is also another card you can search with King Tycoon.
Yeah, that's true.
So King Tycoon now gets Ferris, which if you want a removal spell, now you have a removal spell, or you get Lena, which is just one of the best backups that's ever been printed. No, I think everything on this card is good. If you want a Famford effect, a lot of times you'll have a Dead Forest already done its entry effect. Kick it into them and say, hey, I don't care about this anymore. I need you to kill something you have.
Please.
Yeah. Get rid of Neo X without choosing it. It's another
true,
cool
which
thing.
Is nice.
So no, I think it's really, really, really good. I'm shocked this is just a common.
Yeah, you're certainly higher on it than I was, but perhaps you will be right. Next, we have Folka. I do like this art, and the effect is cool. I just wonder what deck wants this. Does Water have room for this? Because you are essentially still paying 3 for nothing. And as much as I like I've always liked taxing type of effects. Hey, I'm going to prevent you from doing something. This almost seems more like an ice effect. However, they do still get to attack once. So if they have a key forward they want to attack with, like a Fire Ferris, like a Warrior of Light, like a White Tiger Lassie Nimbus, something that's going to trigger off an attack. It doesn't stop that entirely, but it does slow down a lot of aggression. And obviously, damage 3 is just good for helping protect her. I don't know. It's a cool card. I don't really know where I'd use it, though.
Yeah, it's a weird one. obviously it's like, well, I could stop 13 from attacking 3 times, but if you paid 3 CP to get this out, your 13 forward opponent's going to kind of laugh at you and say, oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
And then they'll like, I'll do no damage this turn, but you went so far down in hand size, you're going to lose that game anyway. Maybe in like a mill deck, you're just trying to slow the game down, and then you could like do this for 1 turn. The next turn, you Famfret them, make them sacrifice all their stuff or something. It's very funny that she cannot take any damage by any means on your turn on damage 3. So you can attack with her, and like, she's like, well, here's a 7k that you can't do anything about. That's kind of fun, but yeah, weird card. Very difficult to evaluate.
Next, we have Miwa. Cards with back attack are always worth an extra look since they can be played at that old summon speed. And a back attack that just stands up all your forwards sounds quite good, especially if you're against something like a Zero Miss, something that's knocked your whole board down. Yep, surprise, actually, they're all fine. Yeah, that's cool. I could definitely see this being at least a one of in water deck, or even just anything that can play water, just as that surprise factor that, actually you weren't expecting that, so now I can hit you with a bunch of stuff. And then damage 5, just she's that much stronger. So yeah, it just seems solid all around.
Yeah, good card. Real quick, negate all damage does not mean prevent the next source of damage. That's something that a lot of new players get tripped up on. Negate all damage dealt to them should just say heal. Would be the more intuitive way of phrasing it.
That'd be more thematic anyway.
So, but there's a lot of like fun things you can do with this. Activating Warrior of Light or Une potentially could be really funny. You know, like I don't think this has to go in like a mono water shell or anything like that. It's just good. Dulling and freezing stuff has been kind of what Ice has done to kind of close out games. This says your opponent is not dulling and freezing your stuff anymore. So they attack with something they thought was going to be safe. It's not safe anymore.
Yeah, that's huge. Next, we have Yuna, who I immediately kind of dismissed just because Yuna has so many good cards. And I was like, why would I play a forward version? However, depending on what you're doing, and clearly she wants to be partnered with Tidus, if you're using like the Opus 16 Legend Tidus, him costing 1 feels way better. And then her also drawing a card off of it too, if you can get that summon back, that's cool. Granted, it's a little more finicky to line up than just a Yuna that's always on the backup line, because obviously you have to have both in hand. We do have the new Limit Break Tidus though, so maybe if your game plan really is to get him out, maybe you like this Yuna because you're always making him cheaper. It's a cool card. I like that there's a very niche combo for it. It is also a summoner, so that's always relevant for anything that searches out summoners, once summoner counts, etc. Although again, probably if you're doing the summoner thing, there are probably better Yunas you can use. So it's good. It's clearly solid. I'm looking forward to see what some combos people come up with.
I think if the Limit Break Tidus wasn't printed, I wouldn't be high on this card at all. But I also really liked the Rosa from Opus 20.
Yeah.
And this kind of does this very similar thing as far as like really caring about one other character and kind of giving you another benefit on the side. So, yeah, at first I read her, I thought she was terrible, and then I've kind of warmed up to her over time. Yeah. We'll talk about her more when we get to Tidus, probably.
Next is Uni. This one's kind of chaff. The action ability is kind of neat if it lives long enough to use it, but the entry effect just isn't enough to kill most forwards in the game, so that's kind of all I have to say.
Yeah, it's really getting limited, but other than that, don't bother with it.
You know what we've never had in this game before? A mono art Lena. Well, don't worry, folks. We have finally solved that issue. Here's Lena. Good jobs, of course. She's a princess. She's a warrior of light. Lena always gets good cards. Enters the field, 2 or more different elements among characters you control. Draw 1 card. That's going to be pretty easy to hit. You're not going to put her in mono water anyway because she conflicts with the other Lena. And then if there's a lot of them, you know, your opponent selects a forward they control, put it in the break zone. Both really good effects. Great job. The problem is the card is named Lena, and in 4-color lists, the backup Lena has kind of become one of the new premier cards in there. Mono water, you have the Leviathan resummoning Lena, so I just don't know where this goes because Lena is such a good name and all of her cards are good, so that's my only question is, all right, Ghoul, tell me, where does this card go?
It's really good. So there's a couple things that are noteworthy here. 4-color Warrior of Light fulfills the condition by itself.
True.
If you have 4-color Warrior of Light, you draw a card, and your opponent Famfrets for 3 CP forward. That's really nuts. You can run this in addition to the backup Lena.
True.
If you don't draw backup Lena early, you can play this later and get a Famfret and a draw. If you play the backup Lena, that backup Lena has one of the best specials in the history of the game.
Good point.
It's just good. There's good text on the card. Art's gorgeous, by the way, if you haven't seen this in foil. Fantastic. I like the card a lot.
I would love to see it in foil. Sir, that is it for water, which means we are done with the main 6 elements of the game. Stick around. We've got one more video coming out. We're going to touch the dark, the light cards, and those juicy limit break cards, which are the brand new effects. So Ghoul, thank you for joining me. His information will be down in the description below. Look for us in part 3 coming out not too long from now. Appreciate you watching, and until next time, take care.